Hi, I'm Doug Donahoe. Welcome to today's podcast where we're talking about an upcoming event this Saturday, May 25th, called March Against Monsanto. It is a worldwide global event. Rallies across the world are organizing, from Australia to Germany, from New York to California, and here locally in Redmond and Bend. March Against Monsanto Bend organizers, Robbie, Bianchi, and husband Shawn.
I came across the March Against Monsanto website on Facebook, and Rob and I have been talking about it, and what we eat is very important to us. So I asked her if she would be interested in organizing March Against Monsanto in Bend, because it was a worldwide event, and so she jumped at that, and it just kind of snowballed from there really quick. We put together a Facebook page and contacted some people who had started putting one together for the Redmond area, and they were asking about Bend, so we just started to just start making calls and start talking to our network of friends and people who felt the same way that we did about GMOs, that they're not in our best interest, and that they are actually very harmful and damaging to our health.
And to the environment. You know, I think that already in Bend, we tend to be, you know, conscious living in a sense. There's lots of people who are running and skiing and really health conscious. And so, you know, we've got Nature's, we have Whole Foods, we have Divorce, we have all these opportunities to buy healthy organic food. But a lot of people don't realize that when they're shopping at Safeway, even though they believe they're feeding their family this healthy meal because it's not out of a box, they are actually being poisoned and they have no idea, or even taking it to the next level of eating out. You know, when you eat out, none of that food is washed. So all of this food is covered in pesticides while it's being grown. Then it's picked early and it's shipped to us from hundreds, maybe even thousands of miles, and then it's sprayed with a chemical to make it ripen, to force ripen it in the store, or they spray it with a fungicide or a pesticide to keep it from being spoiled on the way here, and then that goes straight on your plate. And I just wanted to help bring more awareness to the people and to give them options, and also to give a shout out to all of those people who are making such a big difference, like Billy Johnson with Windy Acres Dairy, and Jim Fields, who is producing non-GMO organic food here locally in an area where most people think you can't even grow anything. You know, we've got Nature's and Divorce, these small time stores that, you know, they're the small guy. It's not Whole Foods. I want to get the awareness out to our local farmers, our local dairies, you know, our local natural food stores, so people can think for themselves and at least be able to make the decision. If you want to keep your head in a hole, no problem. I won't bother you. But for those of you who do want to know, I'm here to educate and motivate.
I think that the one thing that I like about what the March Against Monsanto is, this isn't a bunch of angry, uninformed people that are getting together to rally against a big corporation.
No, and it's not a bunch of jobless people with a drum circle either. You know, this is people from all over the world who are fighting for their right to choose what goes into their body. And you know, it's hard because it is a bit of a controversial subject. We've got Dr. Oz that's telling people that, oh, organic isn't worth extra money. You know, you can buy a canned spinach and there's not a lot of nutritional difference between canned spinach and frozen spinach or fresh spinach. And honestly, truthfully, when you start looking at the figures, I can't honestly tell you that he's wrong. I think that the nutritional difference maybe is not excessive, but one of the major differences is pesticides. So spinach is actually one of the most sprayed fruits and vegetables that we get. I think I just read something the other day. Broccoli has like 5 different pesticides on it, regular broccoli. So if it's not necessarily that you're buying it for more nutritional value, you can be buying it for not having the extra nutritional value of pesticide. And on top of that, thinking about the environment, what's going on with all of the fertilizers that's going into the soil, it's depleting the soil. Now the food is growing, but they're overusing the land. They're using these synthetic fertilizers, and it just doesn't have the nutritional benefit that it once had. So, gosh, it's an onion, if that makes sense. There's so many layers to it.
Well, another thing, you mentioned a good point, too, about kind of fighting for your rights for food. You take a look at Monsanto, and what I find really appalling is the fact that they're wanting to patent their seeds and get control of the food source, which to me is really alarming. There are things that they have put into place as far as in their seeds that prevent them from regerminating and reproducing. So you have to constantly go back and purchase more seeds. And then they're also looking at pursuing legal action against farmers who try to reuse seed or out of cross-pollination. There's just, in my opinion, too much at stake. I think that another reason for this march is the fact that we need to secure our rights of our food source. I mean, it should be an option. If people want to choose to have food with GMO, that's their choice, but we shouldn't be forced, considering the fact that the vast majority, we mentioned corn, the vast majority of the corn produced in this country, if not in the world, contains genetically modified organisms. Yeah, 90%. So they contain GMOs. So that's another major component of this as well.
I feel like look at all of the other things we label. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes that doesn't say that smoking causes cancer. You can't walk into a bar without seeing a picture of a pregnant woman saying drinking is hazardous to your fetus. For
coffee.
Pete's sakes, I can't even drive my car down the road without getting a ticket for wearing a seatbelt. So why is it that this company can make money selling us food that's toxic to our health? And this is controversial because people, they don't want to believe it. But if you want to do the research, you get online, you're going to find that case study after case study shows that rats who've been exposed to genetically modified foods develop cancerous tumors, tumors maybe that aren't cancerous, but tumors in general. They have reproductive health issues. It is a proven fact that these rats are definitely having negative side effects from these genetically modified foods. So if you are going to sell them, I say label them because I want to have a choice. I want to choose to spend more. I want to choose to vote with my dollar. I want to choose what kind of food that we feed our children. I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, you get down to not only the obvious of the health factor of what you consume, but think about in this era of high unemployment and local farmers and ranchers, what they're dealing with and how they're barely surviving right now. It would make me feel good. It does make me feel good going down to Nature's and I'm buying meat. If I choose to eat meat, I'm buying meat that isn't filled with antibiotics and hormone fed and all the crap. And I'm supporting somebody that is my local neighbor. And to me, it all comes back around to, it's the right thing to do in your community. And it's also the logical thing to do for your body. And it's a win-win. Mm-hmm. Give us the choice to make those decisions.
I agree, and we're getting a little bit off the subject of Monsanto when we're talking about meat, but at the same time, when you start talking about dairy, now we get Monsanto back in because Monsanto is the one that released the growth hormones that they've been using in cows to accelerate the milk.
Right now, in the midst of a major childhood obesity epidemic, the giant dairy lobby is trying to force the federal government to redefine milk to include artificial sweeteners such as aspartame in children's school lunches without proper labels. So instead of chocolate or strawberry milk with sugar and high fructose corn syrup, which is currently labeled, Big Dairy now wants to replace that with aspartame in our children's milk and pretend it's a healthy choice for you and America's children. and do this by keeping it all a secret by not requiring proper labels. Aspartame has a long clouded history with fraudulent science submitted during the original FDA approval process, and not surprising, the company that created aspartame, G.D. Searle, was bought by Monsanto in 1985. In 1999, Monsanto admitted to genetically engineering bacteria to create aspartame, which is now used widely as an artificial sweetener in diet soft drinks, chewing gum, and other diet foods as a sugar substitute. Numerous studies have linked aspartame to mood alterations, including anxiety, agitation, depression, headaches, insomnia, seizures, and memory and learning problems, and brain tumors. Even worse, not long after aspartame won approval in 1981, the company G.D. Searle that manufactured aspartame was bought by Monsanto. Hard to believe. And much of today's aspartame sold on the market is genetically engineered. Despite Monsanto's early connection with aspartame, they sold the company in 2000 and no longer produce it. The International Dairy Foods Association and the National Milk Producers Federation believe that the way to boost sagging milk sales is to pump milk full of cheap synthetic GMO sweetener and then dump them unlabeled on America's unsuspecting school children just to make a fast buck. Is that right?
Believe it or not, Monsanto has their fingers in a lot of different pots. They've got the new Frankenfish that's out now, this new salmon that they've decided to release out that's going to kill off all the native salmon. And it's really disgusting. Like, what do we got? Agent Orange. You know, this company has been making toxic products. They are in the business of death. They're in the business of killing. They're in the business of neurotoxins. Why would we want them control of our food? And on top of that, this is also a company who said it wasn't their responsibility to prove if genetically modified food was bad for you. Their only interest was to sell as much of it as they could, and that it was the USDA's job to prove if it was safe. But catch this, there's 500 ex-Monsanto employees now running the USDA.
Did you know President Obama's appointment of Michael Taylor, former Monsanto Vice President and Legal Counsel for the chemical company, as the head of the FDA's Food Safety Program? Despite his obvious conflict of interest.
Touching on pesticide, that's another one that gets me really fired up, is Monsanto's Roundup. Just the other day, actually, my neighbor was spraying pesticide all over the hill, right next to my dog. And I said, is that poison? And he said, yeah, it's for the plants, though. It won't hurt the dog. And I just thought, what planet are you from? You know, all of this stuff that we're spraying around here, it doesn't just go away. It's going into our water supply. It's affecting the fish. It's affecting everything, our ground table water. And come on, people. Just because you spray it and the weeds die doesn't mean that convenience is worth it. Go out there and pull those weeds with your hands. You know, this poison, it doesn't just go away.
It seems what it all boils down to, it seems to boil down to it in the end, the almighty dollar.
Control and money, absolutely.
Yeah, if you can control the food source, if you can control the water source, and if you can control the, you know, like the pesticides, and you look at their history, like we talked about, we hit on like Agent Orange, DDT, and the many other things that Monsanto's done. If you the more control they have, the more profitable things are, and
more influence.
That's where people need to just wake up, do the research for themselves. We're not a bunch of crackpots out there. There's more than enough information, and it's up to people to look to educate themselves, make informed decisions instead of putting their head in the sand. I mean, it not only will affect them, but it'll affect their children, their children's children, and we're already seeing it. I mean, look at how quickly, like you said, 90% of the corn today contains GMO. That amazes me how quickly that happened. No one either said anything or didn't get enough traction or whatever the case may have been. But to me, it seemed like it snuck up.
Mm-hmm. Educating is definitely key, and that is why we are organizing this march, is to organize and inform and get people fired up. That's how change happens. Change happens through people deciding, hey, I am not going to tolerate this. I choose something different. And and also holding people in office responsible. One of the things that has got me fired up around here lately is watching the city employees spraying, I don't know if it's Roundup or a different brand of